Hello. It's always a dance party.
It is always a dance party. You know that the countdown where there's these things floating in the air. Oh, guess what that looks like?
It looks a little bit like you're outside right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Um.
okay. We're called Winterpeg. It's all good.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Winnipeg and much of Western Canada has snow and very cold weather right now, and um, being in the eastern part of Canada, it is not as cold. And I know friends in the States are talking about how nice and warm it is. So enjoy. Welcome, everyone, to your Kick-Ass Career Weekly Wrap-Up. We are so excited to be here again live with you. For those who are live, please feel free to drop a note in the comments. Let us know where you are and if you're cold as Louise. Louise, what are you celebrating in your little snow globy world?
Oh, that's a great image. A little snow globy world. What am I celebrating today? I think that one of the things that I am celebrating is this whole idea of intentionality that I've really brought into my week. And it's intentional in all kinds of ways and spaces, and really celebrating showing up intentionally in the places that I intentionally want to show up, right? Like there's a lot of, I was thoughtful this week on where I wanted to spend my energy. And then I made sure that those were the people, the moments, the things, those were all very intentional. And it feels really good to get to a Friday. We talk a lot here, like why we talk about celebrations is so that we can start to figure out like what really worked and how do we bring that forward and how do we show up more as ourselves in the work that we do and the lives that we have. And so that intentionality really hit home for me this week, and something that I'm pulling forward into next week as well.
How about that? Well, I just want to pause for just a second because what I loved in listening to you was like the thing became the thing, right? The intentionality was in the intentionality, and that's so cool because I think we very often can get lost in when the thing becomes a thing. Right? We can go down rabbit holes and then we're in a rabbit hole and now we're in a rabbit hole about being in a rabbit hole. It's like it can become challenging or crunchy. But this idea of being intentional with your intentionality, the thing became a thing. And it was just really cool to hear you talking about it and having spent time with you during the week, seeing it play out as well. It felt very good to be present with that.
Yeah. And I think it's less about what I was intentional about. And it was the whole act of being intentional. Right. And we get stuck in the what's my priority? What am I doing? Right. And we forget about like, how are we showing up and where am I putting my energy?
So, oh my gosh. Yeah. Remember way back to Wednesday when we had that amazing conversation in the Your Kickass Career Collective? Like we had this great, luscious, juicy conversation with our collective members this week. And it was on setting priorities. And yet we were in this place of, it's not about the thing. It's about the purpose behind the thing. It's about the why and how much freedom that gives us when we're setting priorities, when we're setting goals, when we're doing the do, in addition to being the be. And so it was, that just took me right back to Wednesday and our conversation in the collective.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you celebrations, go.
What am I celebrating? All right, so I am celebrating. I am serious celebrating over here, actually. So, for those that don't know, I'm a little woo-woo. And I have been really working on how I want to bring what I want to bring into the world. And I am very much, one of my saboteurs is a controller. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I like to be in control. I like to know what's happening. And for me, letting go of the how, still taking action, but letting go of the how and letting the universe, letting things kind of flow to me and being in a receptive space isn't always comfortable. And I've been working with my own coach on creating space for to receive. And so I created a little altar. I've been doing a little bit of channeling. I've been spending a little bit of time with myself in the space of creating a certain amount of wealth, a certain amount of money to come into our families' lives. And we're halfway there in 11 days. It's pretty freaking phenomenal when, and it wasn't about, I need to have X number of clients and I need to sign so many dollars. And there wasn't a grasping or a proving or a pulling or a pushing energy. It was just being open. As I said, it's also taking action. So I don't believe in manifesting and sitting and like wishing for something and being like, okay, now drop into my hands.
Right.
That doesn't work. But I was taking action, aligned action, as was my husband, who, thank you, Danny, for taking aligned action. We just continue to show up fully for ourselves. And now we're able to receive.
Right.
And it's a really beautiful thing to be in that space of receptivity, because I would think it would be easy to be there. It's really hard to receive sometimes, particularly when we're the person that makes all the things happen so often, right? To be in that space of, okay, I can allow myself to receive and be open to how this is going to play out. And I don't exactly know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
But we talk about that. We talked about that on Wednesday too. We had such good conversations in the collective. We talked about this idea of we only know what we know in this moment. We don't know how anything's going to play out. Absolutely, we can put things into motion, and there's nothing wrong with that. I put things into motion all the time. But having that ability to kind of sit back and say, I've put things into motion. I don't know where it's coming from or how it's being delivered to me. And that's not the important thing. The important thing is that I'm moving towards something in a much more easeful way. So that's what I'm celebrating: receptivity. I am celebrating the money. I love money. Money loves me. And I am celebrating the joyfulness that comes from being open to receive.
Yeah, there's a lot of we get hooked, right? So easily on like, so here's my goal or here's my objective or my outcome. And then I need to be like doing all of these particular things that will get me there. And when one thing doesn't go as planned, then you get really derailed. And what I heard you say was like, you can still have a goal and an objective and like, and work towards that and not be so hooked on all of the tiny little steps and have it all planned out before you even start moving. And it is about being open to all kinds of opportunity, possibility, options, insert word here, like, but it's being open to all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it sounds like it should be easy, but it's really hard, because when we get into that place of, is it belief? Is it trust? Is it faith? I don't know what the word is necessarily. For me, it's being open,
Right.
and it's being open to opportunity and possibility, because I guess I would put maybe the word believe in there, because I believe possibility. I believe there are possibilities, and I believe opportunities come to us all the time. And being open to just saying,
Right.
oh, I saw 4 emails that came in that had the same topic. Maybe there's something there for me to look into. Right? It's allowing me to do that.
Yeah.
Love it. I do too. And I think this actually goes really well with what we're talking about today, which is this idea of pausing and reflecting. When we came up with this idea, I think it was this, here we are on Remembrance Day. Here we are in the States on Veterans Day. And while on Veterans Day, it's not, it's giving thanks to the veterans. It's slightly different than Remembrance Day. It's still a time to pause. So for those who've given their service, for those who've given their lives, thank you for doing what you do. For us, for me, I'm also thanking you for giving us the little nudge to once again bring up this idea of pausing and reflecting. What do you want to speak into with that?
Well, and so it kind of ties into my celebration a little bit too, is around intentionality. And I often think it's that whole like, can't see the forest for the trees. Like, if we're not taking a step back and taking the time to um, reflect on your journey, your goal, your whatever it is that you're working towards as we crash through here to the end of 2022, if you're not taking the time to look back briefly to say, here's the journey, am I still moving towards that outcome or that goal? If you're not doing that, you be on the wrong path. And sometimes the wrong path is easy to see when it's really the wrong path. Like when it really, really feels like you get detoured and you're way off. Like this happens often with, your health goals and your fitness goal. Like, you're off, right? It's like, wow, January was a long time ago. And here we are in November and we got derailed. But if you were checking in a little more frequently, if you were saying, okay, what are those smaller things that I can fine tune or make some changes along the way, you end up in a very different place. And that's with your career goals, with whatever your business goals, when you put that out there. And so I know this week, Kim, you and I have been doing a lot of we've been reflecting and pausing. And this week we've actually been finding those places where we want to fine tune so that it starts to feel like a little more clear, like a dial on an old radio, totally dating myself, when it's not quite clear. That used to happen.
I was thinking the UHF dial on the TVs. So there we have it.
Yeah. You had to like fine tune your reception, right? So it's not quite clear. There's a little crackle maybe that you pick up. And so you get to like just tune it in a little bit, but you're paying attention to what's going on. You hear that there's a crackle, or you hear when the reception gets clear. And I think that really is that reflection, that pause and reflection. You can't fine tune your radio or your TV if you're talking over it. Like, you just can't. And so pause and really pay attention to what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And I think I know we talk about this all the time. We've talked about it here. We talk about it in the collective. We talk about it individually as well. It's so much knowledge that we have is located below this beautiful thing called our head, right? Which is so funny to me because so much of what we do and so much of our lives are spent in these little boxes. And like, that's all we see too. And yet there is so much below here that has information, wisdom, that can help guide us on our path, but we can't do it when we're in constant motion. Mm-hmm. We actually have to stop and listen because it's much quieter, much subtler than the loudness that occurs in our head. So I think that pause is a huge part, and why we included it in the title of today is really pause and reflect. Reflection can happen at any time, but active reflection is a lot harder, quite frankly, than when you pause, when you take a step back and you go, what the hell just happened? Right? Whether it's once a week, once a month, once a quarter, once a year, like hopefully it's more often than that. But whenever you're able to, whenever you can do these points of reflection, pausing first, taking a step back, taking a breath, getting into your body, feeling the sensations, and understanding that you're here in this present moment because you've done all this work to get you to this point. As Louise said, maybe you've derailed somewhere. Maybe that derailment, maybe that took you down a really cool path that you didn't expect. That's the possibility and opportunity that just opened up to you. What's there? Are you curious about it? Do you want to continue down that path? Or do you want to detour yourself back to where you thought you were headed in the first place? It's really hard to do that when you're in motion. Mm-hmm. So by slowing down, getting into your body, slowing down your head, right? Getting it to quiet down a bit, then you can look at everything that has already happened. Then you can look at where you're headed because you know where you've been. Like you can't meaningfully set up goals, priorities, things to work towards. Like the monetary goal that I was talking about earlier, I didn't just randomly pick a number. Like I understood what I wanted in our family and why. But I could only do that from a place of pausing and saying, what is it that we really want right now? What would feel really good right now for us? And then we're able to move forward with how to do that. It may not
Right.
be all the little action steps, but it's like, here's a step that I can take.
Right. Yeah. And I think we only actually do get to experience that feeling when we are pausing. Otherwise, it's that internal dialogue that just kind of takes over and keeps pushing us forward towards who knows what. Right. And so
A cliff.
could be.
That's what you want to watch out. Like we don't want the cliffs. We don't want the pit of despair. Like we don't want these things.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure you're not stepping into it or coming right up to the precipice of it? Like there are much better precipices to step up to. And if you pause, you have that opportunity to be like, "Ooh, okay, where is that thing?"
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, as we kind of get to this moment of pause and take that time to really hear, see, or feel what it is that we want, right? What are we bringing forward? What do we bring from our past and continue forward? It's really about asking yourself those questions is like, what's worked really well, right? Not how, what's the metric towards my goal, but what's been working really well for me. And you get to decide what that means, right? You're the one in control and you get to decide the parameters around that, what that means to you and what hasn't worked for you. Where's those crunchy, right? Where's the crunchy bit? So what have you not worked on? What have you been avoiding? What hasn't worked particularly well for you? And is that still a place that's worthy of your energy? Right? If you had set yourself up for a goal and you haven't worked on it at all, then why is it a goal? Because I thought those were supposed to be important, right? Sometimes we guess at what's important. And with the reflection and the pause, and we get to kind of reevaluate, is that still important? Does that still need attention? And if it does, why haven't I given it the attention that it deserves because it made it to the list?
Yeah. I think that's a really important point because we so often just keep blazing forward, right? It's like, I set this goal. This is what I'm going to do. I'm either going to hit the goal or I'm going to feel like shit about myself. Right? So, and this can be in your business, in your career, in your personal life, whatever it is. We're going to set the goal. We're going to just keep going until we get there. If we don't get there, we're going to feel really, really, really badly about ourselves. And then we're going to beat ourselves up. And then we're just going to give up and we're not going to set a new goal until we set our next goal. And this is the cycle that we go through. Wouldn't it be better to recognize halfway there, quarter way there, whatever it is, to say, that goal's really not that important to me. I set that goal because of some external factor that I thought it was going to be important to me, or I thought I should do this, right? Because I know I've set a gazillion goals over my lifetime that is based on what I think I should set it as. Oh, everybody's saying they're going to have this many hours on Peloton this year. I have to do the same thing. How about I figure out how many hours I want to spend on Peloton and why? Right? It's not about what anybody else is doing. A little competition, sure. I'm all for that. That can absolutely spur you on. But it's your own why. And if your why has changed, it's changed. And that's okay.
I just heard Simon Sinek, right? Because I'm a new big fan. Not that he's
welcome
new
to the club.
Like, I'm a new fan of his. Anyways, so Kim, you and I have been doing this pause and reflect in our Kickass career. You and I this is our 25th. Is it 25?
I think
so.
It's
more than that.
Think so?
I do.
Oh, 28. Sorry, this is 28.
28th episode. And so, back many weeks ago.
28 of them.
Or a few more added on, because I
Yeah.
think we had an idea baby before we,
Oh, for sure.
birthed it. But we came up with this idea of having this podcast and doing it in a really particular way. It was really important for us to not be like your run of the mill like podcast, right? And starting to have some really great conversations around what we're not talking about around our careers and our business and how we're showing up as whole people in the work that we do. And we were very intentional around what it is, but we weren't completely I don't know,
Clear.
clear, I guess, maybe, in how we were gonna do that. And so we started, right? And we launched this experiment with the weekly wrap up, because we know how important it is in our own careers and in our lives to have that wrap up every week moving forward, and instilling celebrations into our lives. And we wanted to share that. And through some reflecting, we wanted to make sure we were still like, are we still on track to meeting those objectives that we want to meet? And does it still feel like a good place to go? And so that was kind of the questions we started asking ourselves, to say, hey, like, we're really excited that we were been able to put together 28 episodes and have some really great conversations and just stir up some really great insights around work and our careers and how we all think about it. And so fantastic. And where's the fine tuning, right? We were listening and we heard a crackle and we're like, oh, we just want to fine tune a little bit and just make a few small changes.
Yeah. So we're excited to let you know this is not the swan song. We're excited to let you know that we are just changing the name and a little bit of the format about what we're doing here. So you have heard us say, if you're interested in having a conversation, being part of the conversation, we invited you. We also have done some outreach to some people that we think are really, really interesting, who have some interesting stories around their career journeys and around work in general. So we are excited to let you know that we are changing the branding, and that is what is changing for the most part. And a little bit of the format is changing as well. So we will be starting next week, starting on Monday when we do our release. You're not going to see the weekly wrap up. It's going to look a little bit different, but it is changing from the Your Kickass Career Weekly Wrap Up to Kickass Conversations with Louise and Kim. And we're really excited because these really are kick-ass conversations that we are having around developing your kick-ass career and maintaining and nurturing and nourishing our kick-ass careers. It also lends itself so much more beautifully to the slight change that we're going to be doing, which is there will be more guests on the show. It's still going to be dialogue. It's going to be an opportunity for us to hear stories of other people. So you'll hear our stories still, but you'll also hear other people's stories. And we're going to continue with these topical conversations. So it's not just you won't be coming on and having an interview with that individual, but we will be having that individual sitting around and enjoying, their favorite beverage with us at 2:00 Eastern to really enjoy talking about how is it we can do work better, right? Because that's really what this is about. Is Louise and I feel very strongly that work is important to all of us, and it's important for different reasons for all of us. And we can be doing it so much better. And if we all identify how it can be done better, that's how change is made, right? We have to identify it. We have to have the time to pause. We have to have the time to reflect, assess, right? Experiment, try new things out, not be afraid. Just like we did with this podcast. We love doing it, and we want to make it better. We want to fine tune it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're really excited. But I mean, we don't get to make those changes if we're not doing exactly what we talked about, right? We would just plow through and right with little regard, just trying to get to a number. Let's just try to get to 52 or 100 or whatever that magical number is that makes a podcast successful. And just kind of disregard or how many downloads or how many likes or whatever that is. And although that's great data, I'm not knocking data. It's also often not the metric that is used to take you to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So little funny story about this rebrand. So I had sent Louise a mock-up of what it will look like when we put our first guest in there, or a guest in there, with us. And Ryan Reynolds, as I know you're listening right now, we use your likeness. I'm not showing it publicly because I understand that would not be, appropriate. Former attorney, I'm not going to do that. But we did use your likeness in the mock-up. So we are then thereby putting this out into the universe. Ryan Reynolds, we would love for you to join us on Kickass Conversations, so we can talk about how to do work better. Because we loved your LinkedIn profile too.
Yeah. So I don't even know how I came across his LinkedIn profile. It was really
I know how you came across his LinkedIn profile.
Because I'm a stalker. Yeah. And I thought it was really, really interesting because I was researching like career changer profiles, because we really struggle as career changers. Like, how do we, like, who the heck are we? It feels like multi-passionates have the same problem, right? Like, who are we, and like, what's our brand, and what do we put out there, and who needs to know if I'm this person over here and I'm this person over here, then what the heck is a LinkedIn profile supposed to tell anybody about anything? And so we get caught in this struggle, and it's really important to kind of step back for a moment to say, like, there's no right way to do a profile on LinkedIn. Is it a professional platform? 100%. Do you want to put your professional foot forward? Absolutely, right? There's a place to do the other stuff, right?
We're not going to get into what that other stuff
we're not
be.
Right? But so there is, right? You're on LinkedIn for a reason. But I believe that there's also that, like, how do you shine and put your own authenticity into your profile? And a career changer, you're all of those things. You're every one of the jobs that you've had in the past. And so many people just want to, like, leave some work out or leave their work experience out or whatever that looks like. And I'm like, but why? But that's who you are. So how do you bring it all together and put it in a little blurb in your about section? And so that's kind of how I got onto the Ryan Reynolds thing. And I shared on my LinkedIn profile too, is his, I thought it was great for a career changer because he's a part-time actor, full-time business owner, I think he says. And it's really interesting take on how to put your own self out there. And to be quite frankly, like, you're not getting a job from your LinkedIn profile. You're getting a job, you're getting your next career, you're getting your network, you're getting your relationships from, like, who you are and who you're talking to and what you're putting out into the world. It's not just a static snapshot in your bio. It's like all of those other things that you're doing and generating and having conversations and actually connecting with people. And I just think that's so important. I think I went down a rabbit hole, but I just wanted to put that out there because I think we struggle a little bit. But if you pause and reflect, I'll bring it back, right? Just pause for a moment and ask yourself, like, what's important, and how do you put that next step forward? What are you looking to do?
Right. Which in the Ryan Reynolds, I'm just going to say his name a million times for the algorithm. In that circumstance, how he's put himself out there, sure, maybe he slapped something up or his assistant slapped something up on LinkedIn, whatever. But the reality is when we pause and reflect on ourselves, it does, like, Louise has heard me talk about this all the time, and I know my video's fuzzy. I'm sorry about that. I got excited and it needs to degauss or something. But I, as a multi-passionate person who is not just multi-passionate, but I do a lot of the things that I'm passionate about, and I don't want to be put in a box. I never have liked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I hated it when I was a kid. I hate it when people ask my own child that. It's like, stop asking that. Don't put us in a box. Who do you want to be? How do you want to exist? What's important to you? Those are questions that are more interesting to me, because for me, it's not about what I'm doing, because I could be doing any number of things in any moment. And so understanding that, being able to pause and reflect on what really is important to you. What are you passionate about? What are you devoted to? What are those things that is most important to you in this lifetime, in the work that you do in the world at this moment? Because that will change. Like, do that. Put that out in the world, because that's who we want to see. That's who everybody wants to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not Elon Musk, but we're not going to use his name for the algorithm. Oh, I derailed us completely there. What is your golden nugget from today?
I love Danny's comment, right? Around the thing is the thing. And we forget that sometimes. So I really love just remembering that that it's not necessarily what we're doing, but it's how we're doing it. And this whole conversation has really boiled down to that for me. And so that's kind of my nugget I'm going to take into the weekend.
I love that. My nugget is really just something that I just want to circle back for those that may not have heard it earlier, but that or maybe did and just want to. I just want to kind of. Oh, I hate this term. Put a pin in it for you. I don't know why I just said that. It's what's working, what's not working, right? It's using those simple words on a regular basis. It is looking at where you've been in a non-judgmental way and just say, what's working? What do I enjoy? Where am I? Why am I where I am? Right? Being curious and asking those questions in a non-judgmental way is so key to this idea of pausing and reflecting, giving ourselves time to just do this little test as we're going along in our work and in our lives to see, are we where we want to be? Because if we aren't, we have control over that. It may not be easy, but we do have control. So I just wanted to, my golden nugget was really just bringing it back to like that place of curiosity and the questions that you started to raise there.
Yeah.
That I think are so important. We are excited to bring Kickass Conversations to you starting next week. Watch for the new branding. Please, like and share in all the places, do all the things, click all the buttons. Forward this to Ryan Reynolds, although I'm fuzzy. See, how many times do I have to say it to hit the algorithm?
Yeah, I don't know. What we are talking about something next week, though. So just because the rebranding and our guests might be coming in, we still have our topics that we want to talk about. And next week is all about how to get what you want.
Which I think ties in really nicely to this week's conversation, right? If we take that time to ask those questions, and then what do you do with it?
Right. I thought you were going to say Ryan Reynolds again, because, Oh!
That would be in your wheelhouse. I mean, I'm all happy to have a conversation and everything. Our daughter said, "Mommy, who's that actor that you have such a crush on?" And I'm like, "Daddy." I answered that one correctly, folks. I am done for that. All right.
Everyone.
We have devolved completely this week. We hope at least you had some fun and maybe had a golden nugget or two for yourselves. We are seriously looking forward to seeing you next week when we will talk about how you get what you want, even if it is Ryan Reynolds.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.